Meanwhile, in the kitchen of doom, your main man was concocting plots to devour all of your minds. Now what we're going to be talking about today is brutality in RPGs. We're going to go into vivid description of scenes involving death, involving hyper levels of violence. And I'm going to talk to you about the style of play that we use in the air system, that we use Within the Ring of Fire, that we use, well, really in any game that I play, and any game I play, period. And I'm going to bring that in, and the groups I play with. We like to do that because it's a lot of fun to bring in that narrative, collaborative control. If you haven't already, make sure you get your copies of Within the Ring of Fire. You can pick those up on Drive-Thru RPG, the best fantasy game out there, a game that delves into role-playing and the aspect of teaching, the explaining, the creative narrative, the cinematic. Pick the book up. You will love it. It's very, very fun, and it's going to reinvigorate your RPG group's love for fantasy gaming in a very different sort of world of Vega Thale. Pick it up on Drive-Thru RPG. You can hit your main man up on Facebook. Get the PDF bundle for everything that will ever come out for Within the Ring of Fire for only $75 until the end of January. We're extending the sale. We had loads of people came and jumped into flames for Christmas. We're extending the sale. $75 gets you the PDFs, the 4 that are out now. The 5th one will probably be out by the end of the month. And every other Within the Ring of Fire book that will ever be produced. Ever. That's a huge savings for you, Barbarian Horde. But we're going to talk about brutality. And we talk about this in the Within the Ring of Fire saga book, the first book for Within the Ring of Fire. So, it's something that vastly elevates your level of play, your level of, I don't necessarily want to say entertainment, but your level of interaction with the game, the level of vividness at which you play, the level of realism that you interject. If not to say realism, then to say suspense of disbelief. Because when you bring that brutality, you don't just bring brutality engaged here. You want to put it here. You want to put it here. You want to put it here. You want to touch it, taste it, smell it, feel it. You want it to be real. You want to feel that sensation up and down your spine, on your arms and your knees, the sagginess, the weariness, the exhaustion, the sweat, the stink of that sweat, the perforation of bowels, the destruction of internal organs, the snapping of ribs, and the difficulty in breathing once those ribs are snapped, and the difficulty that continues and persists on, the shallow breath, the feeling in your throat of coppery blood, the difficulty of breathing, the racing of your heart, the tears that come from your eyes, the bad breath of creatures, obscene and unwholesome, of ogres and troglodytes in your face, the stench of their body, the defecation of those that fall to death, the feeling of an axe slicing ever so slightly across your neck and drawing that thin red line of blood, the concussive impact of a warhammer against your face, rattling your helmet, pouring out of tears in the eyes, the seeing of stars. Yes, when you get a concussion, you very well do see stars. If you've never had one before, trust me. You will see them. You will see them. You will feel them, and you will feel a strange fuzzy spaciness that, if you haven't ever been hit that hard, you won't really understand it. But try to get into that mental mind space of the violence that is being done to you in your Dungeons and Dragons game, in your Pathfinders game, in your Within the Ring of Fire game. Feel the puncture pricks on the neck. Feel the ecstasy of Vitae in your Vampire the Masquerade game as it falls down your throat, as your tongue hungrily licks, as the teeth pierce and cause pain in the throat, followed by ecstasy, followed by quivering sexual feelings of arousal and stimulations of hunger, and the abating of both such sensations from the kindred and the ecstasy that may be left behind on the confused kind. Think about these things, the pumping, raging, raw fury of the werewolf in your Werewolf the Apocalypse game, or that wonder and spectacle as you change and weave and pull and tug at the Delirium in your Mage the Ascension game. And most of all, think of that combat. That combat is so old, stagnant, staged, generic in your Dungeons and Dragons game as you're looking at 5-foot spaces, you're looking at attack of opportunities, you're looking at playing a damn kids game up here with tiled miniatures, with condition cards, little rubber bands that go around it, when you're nothing but out here. Pull back and engage the art, the beautiful art of storytelling. Let it go in your mind. Explain positioning, posturing, movement as the dance continues. In the role-playing genre of your mind, in the ethereal space of battle, and the brutality, the barbarism that ensues, think to yourself how your battle axe feels in your hands. The lactic acid building in your forearms, building in your biceps, building in your shoulder blades as you bring the axe up and smash it down, barbarian style, cleaving a man in half. And get into the description. Once you've defeated that man, pass it right off to that player. It's harder to do in game systems that are designed with a more simplistic, video gamey sort of feel as your Dungeons and Dragons type of games. Of course, when you're within Ring of Fire games, this is built right in. They have a defeated point, and at that point, it's passed off to you as a player for that collaborative narrative to describe how you defeat him. You know, do you reach in and pluck an eyeball out? Do you slice through, lopping his head off his shoulders with a duk, 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 and the blood sprays, the eyes go wide, the mouth open, the tongue lolling. Engage that, and then engage it in the aftermath. They don't just disappear. The monsters don't disappear once they attack you in the camp. There are bodies, perhaps 5 or a dozen, perhaps more than that, littering your campground. They start to smell. They attract flies. They attract perhaps even more vicious, brutal animals in themselves. But think about it, you know, in the aftermath, how you're like, oh, my arm. And you see huge welts and bruises and crushed portions, perhaps a sprained or broken arm, a knee that's so stiff now. And you don't have, you know, your Ben Gayen if you're not sitting there loaded up with an absurd number of healing devices, which are really an absurd detriment to the entertainment value in a fantasy game. They should be special items that are a unique addition, not, oh, well, let me go get healed up because I just have hit points. No. Don't engage a game on that parameter. Don't engage a game mathematically. Engage it mentally, artistically, almost spiritually. When you have that connection, that sharing, and you role play. Use every opportunity, every stimulant your flame tender, your game master, your dungeon master, your keeper, your storyteller, whatever, provides you with. Use that as a role-playing opportunity. And combat can be a wonderful role-playing opportunity. When something seeks to end your life, when it seeks to bring horrific levels of violence against you, you have to stand up and fight and drive it back and push and push and push and push. And then, you know, to describe everything that happens. The blood, the tears, the sweat, how they smell, how they feel, how it stings your eyes, how it has that taste left in your mouth, of teeth are knocked out, how that fireball hits you and burns every bit of your hair off, singes your talberd to the point it's so charred it's barely useful, obliterates your cape, burns your belt and your pouches so bad that hot gold coins are just falling off. You're like, oh, you're like looking down and you've been burned, emoliated nearly by this tremendous power of magic, of the fireball, or of the taste and touch of more ghoul from a priest who understands that fire precept and wields it against you for the crimes you have done in his mind. Engage these things. Engage what the water feels against your skin. Does it feel sacred and holy? Does it wash away the pain, the filth, the sin from your form? Or is it wretched and terrible? Does it bite bitterly at your wounds as if driving salt into them? How does the acid feel as it burns and bubbles and boils against your skin? How do you react? Do you go, oh, there's just acid on me, let me just keep fighting? Oh, my hand is burning from acid. It's sizzling into the bone. I'm not going to just stand there and act like nothing's abnormal. Embrace it. Don't play for hit points, for swings, for damage. Play for cinematics, for the joy, for bringing that brutality against someone. You know, you're grabbing the earth, you're rubbing it against the acid, you're trying to wash it. You might have no idea what it is, right? But it boils and bubbles. I'm not going to stand there while my hand is being eaten away by acid. I'll tell you that. I'm going to do everything I can to try to end that immediately. How do you react when you see undead for the first time? The smell and stink and rot of the grave, that's horrific. Dude, if a bunch of whites just tried to attack me and ghouls, I'd be like, oh, you know, I'd be cowering out like Ric Flair. How you gonna fight that? How do you react when you see a hideous ooze, a mold, a strange thing that is abnormal coming at you to eat you? You can't reason with a black pudding. You can't. You can try, and you will be eaten. And that's horrifying because the level of intelligence, though it may be slight, is utterly alien, and it will not reason with you. And how do you fight it? Don't try to quote rule on this. No. I mean, it's an oil slick. A living oil slick is just running up at you, just across the floor. Oh God! You might stand there, but you turn around. Your main man is using this barbarian additional speed to leave you. Because I'm not gonna fight a black pudding. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Because how do you do it? Right? You can't fight an oil slick that wants to eat you. But you can engage it, and you can experience those emotions. That's the real thing. You want to have emotional transference from the scene, from the world, from the ether that you've collectively created. You want to transfer that emotion into yourself, and then put emotion back into it, charge the ether, and then people start feeding off it. They feed off it. They drink it in, and then they regurgitate back out their energy. And you'll see people that are even less talented in the role-playing arena, that are less extroverted. They're going to start sliding more and more and jumping in. And a lot of times, because I'll do that if I don't even know. I'll get a brand new group of people I don't know. I'm going to talk about what we're going to do with my two-handed sword. I'm going to talk about swinging it, gazing eye to eye. Our eyes lock, and the stare of hatred is palpable off of me as the sword silently swings through the air, slicing into the neck and penetrating as the Ember or NPC, the monster before me's eyes widen, its mouth drops, its tongue lolls, horror spreads over its countenance as the blade of steel continues to cut through and the blood pours out of the throat. And going into this, I'm not going to go into more graphic. That's a very basic, very generic, very simple, easy. Anyone can do that. Within the Fire game, I was lucky enough to be a player. My buddy Lou ran last night. Emil, our player, she was like, making her vomit. She's talking about having nightmares. Because, I'd get in there. I had the nightmare whip with a copper with cruel obsidian barbs. And the most horrific one is when I just killed this Sarush, this large, like Komodo dragon-esque lizard person. And it's like, and I just whip into the mouth. I went through a very elaborate, detailed description, but a chain goes right in the mouth, down the throat, and it digs in and pierces. And you can see little tiny pinpricks against the outside of the throat from what's hit it inside. Its eyes are getting wide with utter horror as it trembles. As I rip out, the little holes open and blood flows from the inside of the throat as his tongue is ripped from his mouth, with lots of the bottom of his mouth teeth go splattering and flying. His tongue is on the end of my nightmare whip. Blood's pouring from his mouth and from his throat. He's trying to push the blood back in, push his life force back in, but and he collapses. But it's not a quick death. It's not. And I'm talking about him struggling and trying to survive. I'm talking about putting a boot on him. And it had those details in. If you're going to cleave someone to death with that axe, well, you cleave him up with the axe. But no reason you can't throw an elbow in there or can't put an iron-shod boot to a man. Why not? Why not stomp him when he's down? Or if you've made a successful attack, right, with your dagger, if I killed him, I've stabbed him through the cheek in the face, his teeth pull out, I rip across his face like that, I'll slash into his tongue and blood's pouring out. He's looking horrified. There's no reason you can't hit him like 10 more times with a dagger. Just talk about, how you're stabbed in the throat and the stomach and everything piercing into the belly and the acidic contents of the belly empty. The intestines fall out. They're perforated. We smell now the smell of his perforated intestines, the feces. You slash into the bladder and urine comes out, or, you're puncturing the kidneys, slashing across his back, his spleen coming out. And you get the idea. There's so much you could do. And again, what I'm giving you is a very sanitized version. You can watch any, I would say any live play that I'm in, that there's any combat in. And, people time me out. I'll spend 4 minutes vividly describing, you know, how something's going to be killed, because that's what you're looking at in something like Spartacus, Blood and Sand. Those vicious flying back, and we see the blood, you know, and we see all those gruesome details, or you see a show like Sons of Anarchy, like in the 6th and 7th season, you know, where they show the bullets going in, the blood pours out of their eyes, or open and horrified. When you bring those kind of details, because you don't have a special effects, it's all, this is the special effects machine right here, and you engage that brutality in a cinematic fashion, you can really get players on a whole nother level, because it extends out to other things. It's a wonderful tool to share collaborative narrative, to allow your players to narrate what they've done. If they've just killed a goblin, right, let them describe how they do it. And they'll go, and they might not do a good job the first 3 times, but they'll start building up, and then, you know, that's fun. You're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that goblin now and get that filthy, foul, wretched beast, and I'm gonna sort it out. So that can provide an incentive, you know. So in a combat situation, it's not just, oh, I'm gonna get some gold or some silver or some objects day art or some magical objects day art. You mean, you never know, you want to get those too, those magical objects day art. But when you make a combat rich and rewarding, when you're describing the pivoting, the moving, the dust coming up, the weather, the smell of things, the touch, how it feels to be hit with a weapon, players are not going to just rush right in and be like, oh, I got my arm broken last time we had combat. Fuck this. You know, they're going to start thinking, they're going to start engaging things in a realistic terms. One of the worst things most players do, and a mistake, is they do not engage the world in a realistic fashion. And by that, don't get me, oh, it's not realistic because you have dragons. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you were there and you had a hammer in your hand and you grew up and you was a little tougher than you are, a little bit stronger, a little bit quicker, a little bit more into hit points, are you just going to run right into something that's probably going to kill you? And you've just been through all those other things, you know? And then we get into people thinking. Now we start engaging on an emotional level. So does the character become joyous, depressed, anxiety, post-traumatic stress? Do they start developing derangements, like paranoid schizophrenia? There's so many things that you can bring in once you begin to think like that. You're thinking like a character. You're thinking like someone engaged in the scene. And when you engage in the scene, that's when you make the magic happen, baby. That is when you hit that wonderful apex moment when you're like, oh, you know, and it's wonderful. And when you play games like that, man, you're like, yeah, I'm in there, I can do my stuff, and I'm moving around, and you're watching, and you're seeing what they're doing, because what they're doing now affects you, because they're moving, and, you know, now the you know, the big fucking, you know, Cobra man is like, he doesn't know which way to turn, and it's like, boom, and that's when you knock it the fuck out, and it's on the ground with his piece of rock. Don't care if you were a Cobra, you can still get stuck in the mouth. And that can really be a way to think about a gateway to immersion, the immersive cinematic element of combat. When it's described, when it's not, I roll, I miss, just go on, I roll, I did 3 points of damage. 3 points, oh wait, it's 4. I did 4 because I forgot my bonus, I did 4 points of damage. What? Wait a minute, time out, you know. And you need to have a gauge. You don't want to, you know, have a Cyclops with a big health meter, a health gauge, hit points, whatever you want to call it. All right, and these things are very different. I'm not trying to say that it's the same measuring, but you know, once you've really chopped it down, and they're like, you know, describe that. If it's just, you know, it's a little glancing blow, and you can ask your game master, well, that is he? Oh, he's okay. Okay, so this is what I do, right? I've hit him with my mace, but it's when it glances off the thigh, he's looking at me, and now he don't want to get a piece of you because we have an actual interchange. What happened? Right? No, I did 30 damage. It's like, well, what did you do? You know, and that can give you that advantage too. He's like, oh, you know, you might get a bonus to intimidate against him, you try to intimidate him, or might try to run, you know. You're doing crazy stuff like trying to rip somebody's eye out. Like, whoa, dude. I just thought we was going to have a clubber in a fight. So, and that leads, it trains players in the right way. It leads them to expressing things very realistically. They don't go crawling around in a disease-filled cart of dead people that died of the plague. Well, they died of the plague, but that's fine. I'm just gonna hide myself in this plague-filled cart. What? Yes. I mean, you don't want people to be detached. You know, get them involved. They're gonna be thinking about their gods. They're gonna be thinking about their decisions. They're gonna be thinking, you know, about their hungers, their passions, their character as a person. And then, you know, that's what you want to do. You want to think about that in those sort of terms, because it helps you become involved with it. You know, you gain that psychology and you project that forward and you play in here, and all of a sudden you're playing a whole new level, and it's really rewarding and it's really fun. So, you know, in the comments below, of course, let me know what you guys think of the Barbarian Horde out there. And if you're new to the channel, I appreciate you watching. make sure you pick up your Within the Ring of Fire books, because that's going to be helpful to you. You're going to have a hell of a time. I have a hell of a time playing it. Can't even think about playing something like D&D anymore, if I'm honest. And join us on RAW Immersive Games, the Facebook page, community. We got tons of people in there. Games kick off on a moment's notice that you might even be able to get a part of. You're going to learn about Kavega there. You're going to learn a lot about role playing. You're going to engage in comments and conversations with lots of people from all over the world that love role playing, and I love role playing. And if you're out there, you love role playing, in your right place, baby. And thank you for watching.